Everything was set for a happy ending. The bride, stunning. The groom, emotional. The church was full. Every detail of that wedding looked like it came straight out of a fairy tale. We are gathered here today to celebrate the sacred union of Emily and Jake in holy matrimony. But what no one expected was that a single question would change everything. If anyone here has something to say that may prevent this union, speak now or forever hold your peace. I have something to say. From that very second, the perfect wedding turned into a nightmare no one would ever forget. A soft spring breeze swept through the streets of Charleston, South Carolina, as church bells echoed under the blue sky. It was Saturday, 11 a.m., and the sun bathed every corner of the small, white wooden chapel on the hill, the perfect setting for what was supposed to be the happiest day of Emily Carter's life. Emily stood in the back room of the church, surrounded by her bridesmaids. She wore a delicate lace dress with a veil gently cascading over her shoulders. Her eyes sparkled with anticipation and nervousness. The light makeup highlighted her natural beauty, but it was her smile. That smile of someone who truly believed in love, that stood out the most. "Are you ready to become Mrs. Emily Walker?" joked her best friend Samantha, carefully adjusting her veil. Emily laughed, but her heart was racing. A mix of emotion and a strange flutter in her stomach she couldn't quite explain. Maybe it was just nerves, or maybe it was something she couldn't name yet. Meanwhile, on the other side of the church, Jake Walker was adjusting his tie in front of the mirror with trembling hands. He looked sharp in his navy blue suit, a white carnation pinned to his lapel. His friends surrounded him, laughing and joking, trying to ease the tension. But Jake didn't laugh much. He stared at his reflection, as if searching for something in his own eyes. "You're about to marry the most amazing woman I've ever met, man," said Mark, his best man and childhood friend. "Don't give me that 'am I making a mistake' face. She loves you, and you love her." Jake just nodded. On the outside, he looked like any groom. On the inside, a whirlwind of thoughts spun out of control. Outside, guests began taking their seats in the pews. Family members from both sides, old friends, co-workers, neighbors, all smiling, speaking softly, snapping pictures. The atmosphere was warm, cheerful. Everything decorated in shades of blue and white, with petals scattered along the aisle and lights hanging like fireflies frozen in time. Standing outside the church doors, Emily waited for the signal to enter. Her eyes were misty, not from sadness but pure emotion. She looked up at the sky and whispered, "Dad, I know you're watching. Thank you for guiding me here." The organ began to play. The church doors opened. Slowly, Emily walked down the aisle, all eyes on her. Each step felt eternal. Jake, seeing her, smiled, a nervous smile, but a genuine one. When she reached the altar and held Jake's hands, the whole world seemed to pause for a moment. The priest, a gray-haired man with a calm voice, began the ceremony with words about love, respect, and commitment. Emily and Jake exchanged looks, smiles, and squeezed each other's hands tightly. It felt like everything was exactly where it was meant to be, at least for now. Before reaching the altar, Emily and Jake had walked a path full of defining moments, and as the two exchanged glances during the ceremony, it was impossible not to relive, even for a second, everything they had been through. Emily met him at a small coffee shop in downtown Charleston 3 years earlier. It was pouring rain that afternoon, and she had stepped inside just to take shelter. Jake, distracted, bumped into her while leaving with a cup of coffee. The cup fell. She got soaked, and he was so embarrassed that, on impulse, he bought her a new coffee, apologized about 10 times, and ended up sitting at the same table. "Do you always run over random people, or was today just my lucky day?" Emily joked as she dabbed her shirt with a napkin. Jake laughed, still a little awkward. But that clumsy exchange turned into conversation, and the conversation into laughter. And the laughter, after a few more meetings, turned into love. They went through ups and downs. Jake struggled with trust. He had lost his parents very young and grown up in foster homes. Emily was light, sensitive, empathetic, full of hope. But she also carried scars: her father's death, a broken heart from the past, fear of abandonment. Still, they found in each other what seemed impossible: safety. They now remembered the late afternoons at the park, the talks about the future, the dream of traveling the country in a van. Emily recalled the proposal, on top of a mountain in Asheville at sunset, with Jake trembling with nerves and saying, I don't know if I deserve you. But if one day I do, I hope this is the first of many days." She said yes, without hesitation. They promised to never hide anything from each other. They promised to choose each other even on the hard days. They promised to build a life based on truth, respect, and real love. Not the movie kind, but the real-life kind, with flaws, mistakes, and growth. And now, with everyone watching, the memory of those promises made Emily even more emotional. But what she didn't know was that a silent promise Jake had made to himself, one he never had the courage to confess, was about to surface, and it would threaten to destroy everything. The solemn sound of the organ filled the chapel as Emily walked slowly down the aisle. Each step seemed to echo in the hearts of the guests. All eyes were fixed on her, but she could only see Jake, standing there, smiling nervously, as if time had frozen between them. Emily reached the altar. Jake took her hands, slightly trembling, and for a moment they looked at each other in silence. It was as if only the two of them existed there. The rest of the world faded away. Father Thomas Whitmore, known in the community for his calm voice and wise words, began the ceremony. His eyes moved across the emotional faces in front of him, but settled warmly on the couple. "Dear brothers and sisters, we are gathered here today to celebrate the love between Emily Carter and Jake Walker, a love that has endured time, trials, and today inspires us all." The guests smiled, some discreetly wiping away tears. Emily's mother, Linda, held a handkerchief in her lap. Jake's younger brother, Tyler, snapped pictures with a quiet smile. It was an almost perfect scene. The priest continued with reflections on commitment and the true meaning of marriage. Emily and Jake listened intently, but also exchanged small gestures. A hand squeeze, a knowing glance, a nervous smile. "Marriage is not just a celebration of love," the priest said, "but a daily promise of choice. Choosing to stand by one another, even on the hard days. And today, Emily and Jake, you are here to make that choice before God, family, and friends." The priest then invited them to exchange their vows. Jake took a deep breath. He reached for a folded paper in his jacket pocket, but, upon looking at Emily, put it aside. He spoke from the heart, voice slightly choked. "Emily, I've never been great with words, but from the first day you walked into that coffee shop, I knew something in me had changed forever. You gave me a place in the world. You taught me to trust, to love. And today I promise you, not perfection, but presence. Not empty promises, but true commitment. I am yours, completely, forever." Emily could barely hold back the tears. When it was her turn, she took a deep breath and spoke clearly, even through the emotion. "Jake, you are living proof that love can heal, that even broken hearts are still capable of loving again. I choose you today, and I promise to keep choosing you every day, in joy and in pain. I promise to fight for us, even when it's hard. I love you, and I always will." The church fell silent. Not the silence of absence, but that full silence that takes everyone's breath away. The priest smiled, visibly moved. "These words are the foundation of a life shared, and now with the rings in hand, let us seal this commitment." The bridesmaids and groomsmen handed over the rings. Jake slid the band onto Emily's finger with trembling hands. She did the same, smiling through tears. "With these rings," said the priest, "they seal the love that already lives in their hearts." Everything was perfect, tense, but perfect. But then, the tone of the ceremony shifted. The priest straightened up, took a deep breath, and with a solemn voice said, "Before we continue, I must ask a question, traditional yet deeply meaningful." Emily furrowed her brow, confused. Jake averted his gaze for a split second. The priest then said, "If anyone here present knows of any reason why this couple should not be joined in matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace." A heavy silence fell over the chapel. All faces froze. Even the wind outside seemed louder than usual. Emily's heart raced. She squeezed Jake's hand. Jake smiled, trying to stay calm, but then came the voice. From the back of the church, a woman stood up. No one recognized her. "I have something to say." The silence was so heavy it almost hurt. Emily slowly turned to see where the voice had come from. The guests turned too, creating a wave of confused and tense stares. At the back of the church, a blonde woman in her early 30s rose slowly. She wore a dark blue dress and had her eyes fixed on Jake. Jake froze. His smile vanished as if it had never existed. Emily felt his hand loosen in hers. "Who is she?" Emily whispered, still facing forward. Jake didn't answer. He stared at the woman like she was a ghost from the past. The priest cleared his throat, trying to maintain control of the ceremony. "Ma'am, please identify yourself." The woman took a deep breath. Her voice was steady but charged with emotion. "My name is Rachel Donovan, and I didn't come here to create chaos, but the truth needs to be told before this union is made official." A murmur spread among the guests. Some pulled out their phones, others exchanged concerned glances. Emily felt her heart pounding in her throat. "Jake," Rachel continued, "you promised me you'd tell her once she knew. You promised you'd be honest." Emily took a step back. "Jake, what is she talking about?" Jake couldn't move, couldn't think. All eyes were on him, but his body felt rooted to the floor. "Please," Rachel insisted. "If you won't tell her, I will. Emily deserves to know who she's marrying." The priest hesitated. Emily looked at Jake as if she didn't recognize him anymore. Then, finally, he took a breath. "I met Rachel a few years ago. It was before you. We had a relationship." Rachel shook her head slowly. "It was more than that, Jake. We had a child." The church erupted in murmurs. Emily's eyes widened. Her breath caught. For a moment, she thought she might faint. "What do you mean, a child?" Jake lowered his head. "I found out recently. Rachel reached out, said our son was 6 years old. I was going to tell you, after the wedding." "After the wedding?" Emily's voice trembled. She was in shock. The promises, the vows. Everything felt like a lie now. "And why is she here now?" Her voice grew colder, firmer. Rachel responded. "Because he begged me not to come. But I couldn't let this go on hidden any longer. Not for me. For our son. He deserves the truth. And so do you." Emily turned. Her eyes met her mother's, who just shook her head with tears in her eyes. Tyler, Jake's brother, stared at the floor, ashamed. Everything was falling apart. Every memory, every plan, now replaced with doubt, hurt, and betrayal. Jake tried to approach. "Emily, please listen. I was afraid of losing you, afraid of ruining what we built. So you chose to deceive me." She stepped back again. "You didn't ruin this today, Jake. You ruined it months ago, when you chose to hide the truth." The woman who moments ago was ready to say, "I do," now looked at the man she loved as if he were a stranger. And in front of everyone, she said, "I need to think." She turned and walked out of the church, alone. Outside, the sky had started to darken, as if mirroring Emily's soul. The warm South Carolina breeze no longer brought comfort. She wandered the streets of Charleston without direction, her wedding dress dragging on the pavement, her tears drying on her cheeks like battle scars. Inside the church, the atmosphere was one of complete disarray. The priest tried to calm the guests, asking for respect. Rachel remained standing, looking at Jake, who now sat at the altar, too drained to lift his head. Samantha ran after Emily and found her sitting on a park bench, breathing heavily. Talk to me, please." "Did you know?" Emily asked, not looking at her. "Of course not. I would have told you immediately." Emily let out a bitter laugh. "A child, Sam. He has a child. And he thought it was better not to tell me." Samantha sat beside her. "You're right to feel devastated, but do you still love him?" Emily looked up at the sky. "That's the problem. I do. And that makes it hurt even more." Meanwhile, back at the church, Jake finally stood. He faced Rachel. "Is this what you wanted?" She didn't respond with arrogance. Her expression was one of pain. "I didn't come here to destroy you, Jake. I came to protect our son from your silence. You could have waited. I waited for years. You promised me you'd tell her. You swore. And if you don't have the courage, then maybe you shouldn't be getting married." Jake looked around. Every glance he met was a silent sentence. Later that afternoon, Jake found Emily. She was still wearing her wedding dress, now stained with asphalt and heartbreak. He sat next to her. "I wanted this day to be different." "So did I. I was afraid, Emily. Afraid of losing the best thing that ever happened to me. But now I realize that by trying to protect you from the truth, I only proved I didn't deserve you." She looked at him for the first time. You should have trusted me. I know, and if I could go back, I'd tell you everything on day one. But now, Jake swallowed hard. Now I can only hope you find a reason to forgive me. Even if it takes time. Even if you never come back. I just want you to know, I love you. Truly. Emily looked at the horizon. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky orange and red. She didn't reply, but she didn't walk away either. She stayed beside him, in silence, caught between pain and doubt. The next day, the story had already spread across the entire town. There wasn't a single social media feed without a video, a photo, or a theory about Emily and Jake's interrupted wedding. To strangers, it was entertainment. To them, it was the collapse of a real dream. Emily spent the entire day locked in her childhood bedroom at her mother's house. She didn't want to speak to anyone. Messages of support mixed with cruel gossip, and everything made her relive the moment again and again. By late afternoon, her mother gently knocked on the door. "Sweetheart, he's here." Emily took a while to respond. "Jake?" "Yes, he's outside. He said he won't leave without talking to you." She hesitated, then took a deep breath, wiped her face, and went downstairs. Jake was on the porch, visibly tired, his face drawn. When he saw her, his heart skipped a beat. "Hi. You've got 5 minutes." Jake nodded. He knew that was all he'd get. "I lied to you. There's no excuse. I failed." Emily crossed her arms. "Why did you lie? Why did you think it was better to hide a child from me, Jake?" "Because I was a coward. I thought if I told you, I'd lose everything. And the truth is, I couldn't forgive myself for it. I didn't know if he was really mine. And when I found out, I didn't have the courage to tell you. And you thought it was okay to put me at that altar without knowing the truth? I thought I could fix it after. But I was wrong. I've always been wrong." Emily felt her eyes well up again, but held firm. "Do you understand what that did to me? The pain, the humiliation, in front of everyone?" Jake stepped a little closer. "I understand, and I accept the blame, but I want to fight for you, for what we built. You destroyed it, Jake. You threw it away. Maybe, but even so, I love you, and I won't stop trying unless you tell me to." She took a deep breath. Part of her still wanted to believe. Another part just wanted to run. "Will you acknowledge the boy?" "Of course. He's my son, and I'll do everything I can for him, even if you never look at me the same way again." Emily looked at him in silence. For the first time, she saw sincerity with no armor. A man stripped of pride, broken, but true. She didn't answer. She just turned and went inside. Jake stayed there, standing on the porch, alone with his guilt and his hope. That night, Emily didn't sleep. Her bedroom felt tight, suffocating. Every memory with Jake now carried an extra layer: doubt. His words kept echoing in her mind, but one question wouldn't let her rest. If he could hide this, what else might he be hiding? The next morning, she woke up with a decision. She needed the whole truth. No sugarcoating, no half-truths. She couldn't live in uncertainty any longer. She got in the car and drove to Rachel Donovan's house. Rachel opened the door, surprised, but not hostile. "You want to know everything, don't you?" "Yes, no filters, no lies." They sat in the small living room. Rachel placed a few photos on the table: a boy with light brown hair, curious eyes, and a familiar smile. "His name is Noah. He's 6, smart, sensitive. He has Jake's eyes." Emily stared at the photo in silence. "Why didn't you tell me before?" "Because I didn't want drama. I thought he would tell you. I gave him time. But after years of waiting, I realized he never would. And I wasn't going to hide my son's father anymore." "Did he ask you to stay silent?" Rachel hesitated. "He did. He said he needed time. That his relationship with you was everything. That he didn't want to lose it." Emily felt anger rise inside her. So he used his son as an excuse to keep lying. Rachel looked at her with sympathy. "Jake made mistakes, but he's not a monster. He's always cared about Noah, even if he didn't know how to handle it." Emily picked up another photo and gently touched it. It was difficult, almost cruel, to look at that child's smile and realize it was now part of her reality. "Has he ever met his dad?" "Yes, a few times. But he doesn't know who Jake really is." Emily's world felt like it was crumbling in layers, and yet there was a spark inside her. Not of forgiveness, but of understanding. She returned home in silence. Hours later, Jake knocked on the door. This time, she let him in. "I talked to Rachel." Jake swallowed hard. "She told you everything?" "Yes, and I saw Noah." Jake lowered his head. "He's incredible, Emily. I regret every second I kept this from you." She took a deep breath. "I still don't know what to do, but now at least I know who I'm dealing with. And that matters." Jake stepped closer. "Do you still love me?" Emily hesitated, then answered firmly, "Love isn't enough when the foundation is cracked, but knowing the truth, maybe that's the first step toward rebuilding something." Jake smiled, sad, but relieved. "I'll accept any step you choose to take, even if it leads you away from me." And for the first time in days, they stood face to face, not as bride and groom, but as two broken souls trying to understand what still existed between them. In the days that followed, Emily entered a strategic silence. It wasn't avoidance, it was reflection. She revisited every memory, every detail of their relationship. She thought about the Jake who made her laugh until her stomach hurt. The Jake who held her in the middle of the night during her anxiety attacks. The Jake who now had a son and had hidden it. She spoke with therapists, with her mother, with Samantha. But deep down she knew, only she could make that decision. On Friday afternoon, 1 week after the interrupted wedding, Emily did something unexpected. She called Jake. "I want to meet, just the two of us, at the place where it all began." Jake didn't hesitate. He knew exactly where. The small coffee shop in downtown Charleston. When he arrived, Emily was already there, sitting at the same table where they had first met. She wore jeans and a simple white blouse, hair tied back, makeup free, but there was a different strength in her eyes. Jake sat down silently. "Why here?" he asked. "Because this is where you spilled coffee on me and started to change my life. I figured it was only fair that this be the place where I decide if there's still something worth saving." Jake nodded, speechless. "Look, I've thought a lot, and I realize there's something stronger than the lie. It's choice. You chose to hide. I can choose to react with anger, with pain, or with courage." Jake looked at her, holding his breath. "I can't erase what happened. I can't pretend everything is fine, but I also can't pretend I don't love you. So here's my decision." Jake gripped his hands on the table. "I'm not going to marry you. Not now. Not on impulse." His heart stopped for a second. "But," she continued, "I want to meet Noah. I want to see who that boy is, and I want to see who you become now that the truth is out." Jake's eyes widened. I want to try, from scratch. No veils, no lies, no altar, but with truth." Jake couldn't hold back the tears. "You're more than I deserve." Emily smiled, eyes watery. "Maybe, but if you're the right man, you'll prove you deserve me. One day at a time." The two walked out of the coffee shop together. No hands held, no kisses, but with a new promise. To start over, for real. Autumn arrived slowly in Charleston. Orange leaves drifted across the sidewalks, as if nature itself was going through a quiet renewal. Emily no longer cried every night. It still hurt, of course, but now the pain came with clarity. It had been 3 weeks since the reunion at the coffee shop. In that time, Emily met Noah. Rachel arranged their first meeting. The boy was curious, charismatic, with a sweet nature that reminded her of Jake. "Hi, Noah. I'm a friend of your dad's. Do you like dinosaurs too?" The boy replied immediately. Emily laughed. Within minutes, they were playing on the living room floor. Jake kept his distance at first. He respected her timing, but he was always nearby when invited. They began talking more, not about the past, but about the now. One evening, while sipping coffee on Emily's porch, Jake said, "You know what surprises me the most about all this?" "What?" "That you didn't shut the door on me forever," Emily answered while looking at the sky. "I almost did, but I also remembered, forgiving isn't forgetting. It's choosing not to carry someone else's mistake anymore. And that, Jake, is freeing." He gripped his cup tightly. "I still want to build something with you, but now, the right way. Then start by being a father, a real one. Show up. Because if I see the man you are with Noah, maybe I'll discover the man you can be with me." Jake nodded, emotional. Over time, Noah started asking about Emily, wanted to know when she'd come back to play, and she did. Sometimes with gifts, sometimes with books, other times just with stories. And little by little, the old stories stopped hurting so much. Emily began smiling fully again. She felt lighter, because now she wasn't carrying the weight of false expectations. Jake, in turn, became a present father. He took Noah to the park, to appointments, to bedtime readings. And between laughter, toys, and truths, something new was born. It wasn't the idealized love from before. It was something more real, more grounded, a love that knew what it was made of and what it could survive. A year had passed. Emily stood in front of a small auditorium, holding a microphone firmly. In front of her, dozens of people listened in silence. It was a local nonprofit event focused on relationships and emotional rebuilding. She smiled before beginning. For a long time, I believed that loving someone was enough. But I've learned, love without truth is just a beautiful illusion. There was a respectful silence. Some nodded, others held back tears. On my wedding day, I found out that the man I loved was hiding a child, and for a few seconds my whole world collapsed. I didn't know whether to hate him or hate myself for not seeing it sooner. She took a deep breath. But time taught me something no altar, no vow, and no fairy tale ever does. That true love is born not from perfection, but from courage. Courage to face the truth, to forgive, to start over, even when it hurts. At the back of the room, Jake listened with Noah in his arms. The boy was dozing, his head resting on his father's shoulder. Jake didn't cry, but his eyes said everything. Today I'm not married, but I am whole, and I walk beside someone who is learning to be whole too. One day at a time. Emily stepped down from the stage to applause, and as she met Jake at the exit, she smiled. Did he fall asleep? Listening to you. I think your voice calms him more than dinosaur stories. They both laughed. She gently brushed the boy's hair. Shall we go home? Jake looked at her like a man who finally understands that home isn't a place. It's a choice. Let's go. And so, through mistakes and healing, loss and reconnection, a rare kind of love was born. One rebuilt not with promises, but with presence. A love that, though imperfect, is profoundly true.